This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Well, Mr. Watson, the train's about to leave the station. And what I mean by that is, if Deshaun Watson wants anybody to believe that he is capable of putting together anything close to Deshaun Watson expectation season, this is the last chance to get on that train. I mentioned before this season how this is one of the most important years of Deshaun Watson's career when it comes to the perception of him. Because if he played well this year and he put up numbers, I think people will kind of forget about this weird 2-year stretch where he was in and out the lineup and coming back from the suspension, and talk about Deshaun in a similar way, at least on the field and in the building, about Deshaun in a similar way that they did in 2020 and 2022. But if he doesn't play well, then the narrative that's been built post sexual assault allegations will be the narrative that dominates, and his good play before that will become the footnote. And right now, Deshaun Watson is looking that reality smack dab in the face, because I think you can make a good argument that, look, there's an argument already you can make that it's gotten to that point with Deshaun Watson after the Dallas game. To some people, the Dallas game is going to be unbuild backable unless Deshaun Watson is literally undeniable for the rest of the season, because that game was that bad. Browns had, again, 10 3-and-outs or worse in that game. 71 or 72% of those drives ended in 3-and-outs. I think that's the lowest the Browns have had, or the highest the Browns have had, my bad, of 3-and-out percentage since Johnny Manziel's 2014 game where he was at 80%. It was a horrible game for Deshaun Watson, and a game on national TV that made up a lot of people's mind. But at least in Cleveland, we have no choice but to give this thing a shot. More of a shot than anybody nationally has any reason to give Deshaun Watson. And if he wants any hope of winning back the fan base, of being able to carve out a lane for himself, he has to play well today. This is his last chance. If he puts up a stinker, nobody in the city of Cleveland will ever trust Deshaun Watson again. And let me clarify what I mean by a stinker. If he puts up a game where the Browns offense is similarly dysfunctional to the point that it was last week, if it's similar with the 3-and-out percentage or QBR, if it's another game where the offense doesn't feel like it's flowing at all throughout any course of the game, maybe outside of 1 or 2 drives, then that's going to be it. We need to understand, even if you're somebody who really still wants this Deshaun Watson thing to work, you need to understand where we're at. You need to understand where the rest of the fan base is at. You need to understand where reality is. And the reality is, we can't just look at that last week as one bad game. The more I look into it, the worse it looks. He needs to be undeniable. He needs to be great. I said it in a video earlier this week, and I'll reiterate it. I'm not a fan of any individual player or any individual quarterback. What I want is for the Cleveland Browns to play the best football possible. What I want is for the Cleveland Browns to win the most football games possible. What I want is for the Cleveland Browns to be as respectable on the field, in that building, as possible. And for that to happen, the Browns need the best quarterback play that they can get. Unfortunately, the week 1 performance opens up the door to me asking, is that Deshaun Watson? I hope you close that door. The Browns need better quarterback play starting today by any means possible. The Browns cannot waste this year of Myles Garrett. They cannot waste this year of Nick Chubb. They cannot waste this year of this defense. They cannot waste this year of Amari Cooper. The sense of urgency is here in a way that it wasn't in 2021, where we let the Baker Mayfield thing drag on all season. There are plan Bs in place for the Cleveland Browns in a way that there wasn't in 2021 or 2019. The Browns have serviceable, really good backups. A strong backup in Jameis Winston, somebody who's won games in the NFL and put up 4,000-yard passing seasons in the NFL. So that's the motto for me going into this game. And I think that's the motto for everybody. The Browns need better quarterback play. They need good quarterback play by any means necessary. If that means Deshaun Watson plays better and lives up to it, okay, cool. We'll see what happens with the suspension. But for the time being, if he plays better, he plays better. He's on the team. If that means Jameis Winston has to step up and be the man for the rest of the year, then so be it. I don't think Browns fans, I don't think the Browns organization, I don't think that Kevin Stefanski, and I don't think that Jimmy Haslam should make the mistake of prioritizing making Deshaun Watson work over what's going to be best for this team, because it doesn't feel like those two things are parallel anymore. Again, he could prove me wrong. He could play well today, and that could be back in play. But the Browns need to have better quarterback play today by any means necessary. They need to win, or at least have a very, very competitive, good football game. I've talked about this with JP. I feel like what both teams need the most, the Jaguars and the Cleveland Browns, is to play a really good competitive football game. The win or loss result, yeah, it matters a little bit less in week 2 because you could bounce back from going 0-2. I know they show you all those stats, but you can bounce back from going 0-2 during the season. There's so many more games left. But you need to see a reason to feel like the team can bounce back. And we know this defense is great. This defense plays lights out versus Jacksonville. It's not going to change anybody's mind, because the thing that Cleveland Browns fans are worried about is not just the offense, it's quarterback play. And we want to feel at the end of this game, by any means necessary, better about the quarterback position. And if you're Deshaun Watson, I hope you understand the sense of urgency here. If you're Kevin Stefanski, I hope you understand the sense of urgency here. I hope you understand the sense of urgency, Ken Dorsey, because this is the time. There is no more pushing it down the road. There's no more waiting for it to happen. There's no more, hey guys, let's be patient. It's now or never. Because after this game, it becomes less about figuring out what you have in Deshaun Watson, and it becomes about what's going to be the best quarterback play we could put on the field. How is it that we get the best quarterback play that we can get? Not if Deshaun's going to play better, who's going to be the quarterback that plays better? Because if he plays similar to what he did week 1, I'm not convinced that Jameis couldn't do better. I mean, I'm very convinced that Jameis could do better in that kind of a scenario. So that's what's on the line for Deshaun here. The train's about to leave the station. If he wants to put together a serviceable NFL career after his time in Houston, it starts today, and he better not get off that train for the rest of the season. Because he's dangerously close, and I'm not exaggerating this, by the way. You heard the environment week 1. He's dangerously close from getting booed out the stadium. I've never seen a fan base in stadium show their distaste of a starting quarterback for their team like they have in Cleveland last week. It wasn't as bad for Tim Couch, and they booed him. Well, no, they cheered when Tim Couch got injured. It's so much worse for Deshaun Watson right now. He's got to get on that train this week. He's got to come back to Cleveland next week and give this fan base a reason to believe in him. Not, a reason to extend your time with him, a real reason to believe in him. He's got to get people excited with what he does this week, or else the environment that he's going to come into next Sunday, God forbid he does not start fast in the first quarter, will be ugly if he's the starter. It's just the reality of it, man. The situation with the fan base and how they feel about him at this point, it's untenable. The level of play that you got in week 1 is unacceptable. This is big week 2 for him, because he can put it together and give himself a chance to play the New York Football Giants, who are a bad defense this year, in Cleveland at home, and maybe he could sneak off a 300-yard game and all that pressure's off his back, or at least some of it. But if he doesn't do that, then imagine how ugly this is going to get. We're only a week into the season, and I'm afraid of a full-blown coup happening in Cleveland Browns Stadium if he throws for 112 yards this week versus Jacksonville and 3 interceptions, and the Browns start him in week 3. We got to talk about where we're at, man. So for Deshaun Watson, I hope you understand, this is it. You got to put it together. Your Cleveland Browns career ironically started in Jacksonville. Your first preseason game for Deshaun Watson started in Jacksonville. The question for Deshaun Watson is, will it end in Jacksonville? Because if he doesn't have a significantly better performance this week, I wouldn't be surprised if it does. So, better quarterback play by any means necessary. That's where I'm at. Browns can get a lot out this season, but not with quarterback play in the single digits of QBR. Not with quarterback play at the dead bottom of EPA per play. Not with quarterback play in the dead bottom of expected completion percentage. Not going to get it there. You can get better than that. Will it be Deshaun, or will it have to be somebody else? We'll find out. But that's going to be the question that gets answered today. Y'all have a great day. Check me out for that live stream. Peace.